Hello and welcome to Adobe Live. Today I have the honor of hosting Berklee Ryan. My name's Anna Davis Court, by the way. And today we're going to be working in InDesign. The chat is already shouting out. This is kind of a rare stream for us in InDesign. I love it because it's a unique program. And we've also, I think, got some Photoshop as well, right, Berklee? Is that a
Yes, a little
mixture?
bit.
Okay, gotcha. So, everybody in the chat, so lovely to see you. Cody Bear, thank you for moderating for us. Lisa, hello. We've got Patrick, we've got Carol. Thank you so much for being here. We love to see you all shouting out where you are and what you are up to today. If you are working in InDesign, please let us know. It would be so interesting to see who all is the what is it, IND crew? Is that the short acronym for it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And Berklee, thank you so much for being with us. It's an absolute honor to have you. And I would love to let you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you like to do, and what we're going to be doing today.
Sure. My name is Berkeley. I live in Colorado in the mountains, and I moved here a couple of years ago. And that was when I decided to become a hobbyist graphic designer, I guess, because I wanted to memorialize my life in some way. So I started kind of playing around with InDesign and making a little bit of a yearly recap magazine to make sure I didn't forget any fun moments of my time living in the mountains. So that's kind of what I'm working on currently and what we'll be kind of looking at today.
So cool. I love this concept so much. I think everybody wants to kind of show their time here on Earth. And the idea of making it into a magazine is just so unique and cool. And I've already seen some of the page designs that you have, and I have to tell you, it is very old term, but like funky fresh.
Ooh, funky fresh. I like funky
I love
fresh.
it. Yes. So let's jump in and look at what we are working on today.
Sure. So obviously the year is coming to a close. So I have a lot of the magazine kind of done. But it's sort of a year-long process of deciding what I want to put in here and what makes the cut and what kind of things I want to talk about. Um, and I think a lot of people are kind of, like you said, maybe like steer away from InDesign or it's maybe kind of like daunting or scary. But I feel like InDesign has like so many different qualities that make it perfect for something like this. Because this can kind of be like a photo book, but maybe a little better because it has, text and other information. So I like to kind of do a mixture of like really heavily kind of like graphic, more illustration pages, and then some stuff is just like pretty standard, um, like very text-based with a lot of different information, visually like that.
I
Um,
mean, you say basic, but
I
I know a lot of people are intimidated by that kind of thing, like trying to come up with the right typeface, the right colors, the right, everything about it. There are
yeah,
a lot of
and I
decisions.
and I kind of was introduced to InDesign when I was in college. I was a journalism major, and we had a class where we made a magazine as like the class project. It was like the whole semester long project. Um, and I somehow ended up on the production team, even though I hadn't really had any graphic design experience per se. So that did help me maybe get like a jump start on like figuring out some of the nuances of InDesign. Um, but yeah, I feel like InDesign has a lot of cool, and I have a couple of my like older magazines pulled up as well that I've made from the last few years.
So
And I think
cool.
that like even something like this, like being able to wrap your text around an image can do so much like visually
For
that
sure.
it feels like something so text-based wouldn't really be able to do.
And
Um,
I know there are people out there who would painstakingly like try to fit it manually around. So knowing how to do that
yeah,
in a quick way is like, yeah.
yeah, and it's I think a lot simpler once you figure out sort of how to get everything going. Um, but
It's beautiful
currently,
what you've
so
done.
yeah, like I said, I have a lot of stuff done for the year. I usually like to highlight like different, just I try to come up with like creative ways that my life would seem interesting, even if it's not. Um, so even just like talking about like, oh, the winter, in the winter I do this, and like This last month, I've snowboarded a lot more than I normally do at this point in like the early season. So I was like, let me write about that. Let me write like 2 paragraphs on the early season. Um, and then this is one of my favorite ones that I like to do is making like a concert poster for places that I
Yes.
travel.
So
So
cool.
it's like me on tour, and I'm really a sucker for like a funky fresh, like you said, funky fresh font.
Yes.
So
Oh, hey,
I
I
feel
see
like that's
Portland on
like,
there. Represent.
yeah,
By
that's
the way,
great.
you've got some shout outs in the chat of Colorado, woo! And Barbara saying, hi, neighbor.
Oh my
Kendall
gosh.
also, yay, Colorado.
Hello, everyone from Colorado.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Representing.
the spread that I'm kind of working on now, I in the last couple of years have tried to aim for 40 pages for the magazine,
Wow, that's
which
a
feels
lot.
kind of like a lot. So it's like 20 or so spreads, sometimes like plus or minus the cover and the back cover. And like I said, just trying to come up with like creative ways to make my life seem more interesting, something that like maybe someone else would want to read this magazine who's not just me, like if it was just sitting on the coffee table. So I tried to pick a month that I felt like I did a lot of things, which happened to be April. And I was playing around with the idea of making a calendar spread, but like more exciting.
Yeah. Write in all the
So
things that you
that's,
did or show.
yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at now with this one. And I had it previously, I had, like this font was kind of going up and down rather than side to side, but
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of it is just, and hence why it takes me, the entire year to complete something like this, is because I just change things over
Constantly,
and over
yeah.
again.
Like
Yeah,
this
until
one's
I
not
like
jiving.
decide like what I like. I'm like, oh, I don't know where everything should be. Um, and then I was like, do I want to do just like traditional little like blocks as the calendar, or can it be like more fun?
Do you
Can
find
I?
that there's like a number of iterations until it feels right, or is it per page? Like sometimes it just happens. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's kind of per page. So like some pages that I make, like I made this little scribble situation
Yeah.
in like February, and I had
Mhm.
no idea what else to put with it, but I knew I wanted that. I was like, it kind of looks like a candy shop or something, like, but I really liked it. And I was like, I'm gonna be so bummed if I can't figure out like where I can put these stripes.
Yeah, it's got
And
to
I
fit
still
somewhere.
not even totally sold on what I have here, but I was like, oh well, then I wore that like candy stripe-ish sweater. So maybe
Yes.
I'll just have a picture of my friends. Maybe I'll put text, on the left in some kind of box, similar to this one. Like I like having kind of the picture be cut out a little bit. So I feel like the process really is just like so much trial and error. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, some pages I'll make one version of it and it'll be done and I'll like it forever. And then other ones I make 10 different combinations of different things and then I scrap the whole thing anyways and start over. So that's kind of like the stressful part of this part of the process, I think, like towards the end is like, okay, if I want to, send it to print soon, I have to make these hard decisions
Yeah, got to
of
make it go.
what do I like, what do I not like. And
Having a
then even
deadline can help.
sometimes that's true. I'll give myself end of the year because in the past I have like last year I think I didn't send it to print till like March because I was just like fussing over so many of the like little details.
For
But
sure.
this year I am trying to by the end of the year have it be done. So
All right, let's push it.
um
Berklee, you could do it. Woo!
I can do it, please.
By the way, Kendall is saying, love the idea of doing a magazine for the year. Romanticize your life. Did that feel like kind of the inspiration for this is wanting to just feel like your life is worth celebrating and like putting into words all the things that you've experienced?
Yeah, I think I've always had like maybe like a fear of like forgetting things,
Yeah.
especially like maybe like smaller detail kind of things. Like obviously you remember, that you went on a big trip, but like do I remember the restaurants I ate at or what I did on the random Tuesday when I was, in France or something. So I
What
feel
flavor of
like,
shade ice, you got?
yeah, exactly. So I feel like I'm always just kind of conscious of like not wanting to forget anything. And then I also just am obsessed with like a good little project. So I think I just wanted like a little something to do. And I was like, what if I would see like a lot of TikToks and different things of people making like photo books. And
Hmm.
I was like, but I have the photos. I know that I'll have the photos and I'll look back at the photos, but I want to remember like more details. So I kind of wanted it to be like scrapbook meets photo book meets journal, where like everything is kind of just dumped into one thing altogether. And
Absolutely.
then the challenge, of course, being like, can I make it something that's exciting, like I said, for someone else to look at? Because obviously I want to read about my own life because I think it's fun and I like my life.
Oh yeah, I
But
remember that
this,
one thing.
yeah, but I want it to be also like if it's sitting on the coffee table and someone picks it up, is it also like engaging and fun for them to read about the things that I've done too? So that's kind of reaching
Absolutely.
more into my journalism background of like, can I still write exciting things as well as make things look pretty?
Absolutely. And everybody's loving seeing what you've got going on in here. By the way, it looks like we have an influx of people. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Sean. Hi, Nissa. So many fun people in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. Lisa says it's like a visual diary. That is so true. But like, I feel like you just bring it to the nth degree with your graphic design. And it's not just speaking about like, oh, yes, this is pictures of my life and words about my life, but just the design of how you put it together shows so much of your sense, your design sense and how you think, which is very, very cool.
Hmm. And especially for me, like I said, being someone who's not maybe like traditionally trained in graphic design, um, I feel like there's so much out there that can help people learn. Like you don't need to have, like a traditional background in graphic design. Like the amount of times I Google like how to do blah 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 in InDesign or how to do blah 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 in Photoshop, like I think like I said, it seems so daunting and scary, but like there is so much access and so much information if people want to learn how to do different things. Um, and I totally get it because that's how I feel about Illustrator. Like I am so terrified of Illustrator, and I feel like that's obviously what most graphic designers use
Hmm.
because to them it seems so approachable because they know it so well. But I feel like everything is approachable if
If you
if you
Google
have,
enough.
yeah, if you want to learn. So,
So, so
um,
true. And that's kind of the point of these streams as well, is to let people know, like, hey, this is a really useful trick that I learned along the way, and it made things just so much easier once I knew this.
mhm,
I always bring up the tilde key in Photoshop. I paint a lot in Photoshop, and the tilde key
mhm.
turns your brush into an eraser, and that's like life
Oh,
changing for a lot of
yeah.
people who paint in it. Also,
Yeah,
Ryan
all the
Selby's in the chat
shortcuts.
on YouTube saying hello. End of year season scrapbook booking 2024. Yeah. Also quoting you, everything is approachable if you want to learn. It's too true. Maybe we should put that in your
Exactly.
magazine because that's a gem.
Maybe I should. I can be like on the back cover or something.
Is Adobe Live going to be in the magazine at all? Like, hey, highlight right at the end.
Probably. Yeah, we'll go right here get the
Yeah, it'd
whole
be
back page.
really meta to be like, hey, I'm making the spread as we're making the memory. Quick, do something
Yeah.
memorable.
Oh my God. Everybody smile.
So for this April spread, what are you thinking?
Um, so like I said, well, like you said too, I like the funkier kind of like look of things. So I don't totally know. I liked how maybe I had this before when it was taking up a lot more space. Something that I also always like kind of forget about and have to keep in mind is like the like crease in the magazine.
Hmm.
Because you can sometimes lose, a lot of information in there.
In the gutter. That's what they call it in books, at least.
Yeah. Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, like you
Because
could have
yeah,
a gutter book.
the first time that I made the magazine, I would like the text was super close to the center, and I would lose like you'd have to crease the magazine open, like to
Hmm.
read the two or three words that got lost in the middle. Um, But I was thinking of just making something kind of, to start just like goofy. I don't know how many days are in April, 30?
Oh, let me look up a calendar for you. Okay, count it out. And this is
I don't know.
2024,
Yeah, I don't know that little song that's like, oops.
April.
Uh,
So it's 24, right? So
Do I need a couple more
28,
boxes?
7. So it would be 7 rows if it was 28, and then like a little bit more. 8 or 30. Oh gosh. Oh. By the
Um,
way, Ryan has a question for you if you're ready.
yes, Ryan, what's your question?
What was your favorite month of 2024?
My favorite month. Mm, well, I don't know. Like I said, I did a lot of stuff in April, so that felt like a favorite. But also this was the first year that I've stayed in Colorado in the fall. So I did a lot of like fall hiking and other fall activities that I don't normally do. Usually in the off season, since I work in like a ski town, it kind of everyone jumps ship and leaves. And normally I leave and go on trips or go home. But this year I stayed. So I feel like I really liked um, like September, October,
Hmm.
because I did a lot of hiking and camping and stuff that I normally only get to do in the summer. And then I did it in the fall, which was a lot of fun.
That is
So
awesome.
maybe I'll make another calendar. Um,
Yet another.
yes. Um, One thing that I feel like is my like favorite thing when I'm designing, like I said, as someone who maybe doesn't know all the like tricks, is in Photoshop, the little this used to be, obviously so much harder back in the day when I used Photoshop and you had to actually like cut out the mask, but
Hmm.
I love a good mask. So usually I'll like, import a photo. So this was April 23rd. I had my very first matcha of my whole life.
Hmm.
And
Of your
then
whole
create
life?
a, yeah,
Wow,
baby's
what
first
an
matcha.
experience. What did you
I
think?
know. I thought it was actually pretty good.
Most people say
So I feel like,
grassy.
so I feel like that should be maybe memorialized.
Agreed.
And then, so 1, 2, 3, we'll call it somewhere down here, maybe. So if we'll just stick like the 23rd in
I love
here.
the idea of like, oh yeah, that specific day I had the matcha. And like, will you always remember it as matcha day?
Probably. That goes along with my fear of forgetting things, is I had an Instagram account where I would post every single day, and I did it for like 3 years.
That's a lot.
So that's the only reason probably that I currently remember that I had a matcha on this day.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, shout out
So
to Berklee's TikTok. I believe it is Berklee Ryan on TikTok. If you want to catch the awesomeness that you put together in your videos is very akin to what you do with this magazine. I feel like kind of the style carries through of like funky fresh, the fun never ends. And this is it will scratch your itch for any winter kind of town, especially if you live in a hot place. If you haven't seen a lot of snow, check out Berklee's TikTok because it's so cool. Thank you, Cody, for posting that in the chat. Also, Ryan says so much, or wait, it was baby's first matcha, get the Christmas ornament.
I should.
It'd be cute, actually, a Christmas ornament with that like foam pattern that's on the top of the matcha.
Yeah, that is cute.
I went to a place in Emeryville, California that was matcha and mochi. If you ever go there, you should check it out because it's, oh my gosh, so good. Everything
Yeah, that
matcha, but like different flavors of matcha. It was so good.
that sounds like a great combination, actually. I love mochi.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And they had mochi waffles, mochi muffins. The matcha was like, I had a salted caramel. I think there was like a maple something. Like it is just varieties of things. It was very, very good. Shout out to Renee for bringing me there. Hey. Renee's a regular on Adobe Live as well. Oh, Cody
Okay.
Bear says matcha is great. Love matcha ice cream. Have you ever had matcha ice cream now, Berklee? Are you a
No,
matcha fan?
I have this was baby's first and last matcha so far. So I
Somebody's
still
got to
have
get you
to
on matcha.
get back on the matcha bandwagon.
Well, part of your
Okay,
job is
so
bartending, right?
yeah.
So maybe bringing in some matcha drink to that. I don't know. How can
Oh,
you integrate it?
matcha cocktail.
Yes, exactly. Has there ever been a matcha cocktail? I wonder.
Probably. I'm sure someone's come up with everything.
It's true. So, what are the
Okay,
other
so
highlights
then,
in April that we're going to be checking out?
so I just had to look it up on my Instagram account, but so this day was the closing day of the ski resort.
Oh, really? April 16th.
So, mhm. So can highlight that. I feel like I said, the process is kind of just madness until it's not.
Hmm.
So it's sort of just like getting all these like little details in, figuring out what are the notable things to highlight, what is not so notable, um, and then kind of playing with it from there. Um, I do, like I said, like a goofy little font. So this I have a bunch of fonts from this like font designer that's really great. They have like, I feel like very funky. But I also do like to go into Adobe fonts because I feel like I remember when I was in college and doing this class, I oops, didn't have access necessarily to spend money on fonts because I was in
Hmm.
college, but I had access to Creative Cloud for students, so then I could go and use all the Adobe stuff. So
I love that.
sometimes I just, type goofy words in here and see if I
Just
can come
any
up
old
with
word.
anything fun.
I mean, one of them's called rad. I love it. Oh, and it's made of skateboarders. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Adobe
Yeah,
Font has lots of options.
be like, there's something for everyone.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, usually I'll just kind of go in here and see if there's anything fun that I feel like it's kind of like nerdy to be like a font nerd, but like
Specific like offset of nerd. Yes.
yeah, like I'll be like in the stores taking pictures of different like a can of soda or something because I'm like, look at that font. Like,
I
it's so
love
great.
that. No, that is every graphic design person that I've ever met, honestly, is like obsessed with the design of things. Hey, imagine that.
Yeah, exactly. And same for like just designing the magazine in general. Like the amount of like photos that I have on my camera roll that's just like a photo book in a store or a magazine at the hair salon or something. Um, Especially after making this for like a few years now, like I sometimes worry like what if I run out of ideas or what if I start just like doing the same stuff over and over again and then it's not fun anymore and I'm all washed up. So I feel like trying to get inspiration, from all over the place. And even like where we just were at on this page, like I'm like, oh, I like these colors together. Like I
Hmm.
like this situation. Like I feel like you can get so much inspiration from places without, having to just like copy something exactly that someone is doing, but you can like draw different pieces of it that you like and then kind of turn it into your own thing.
Definitely. Do you feel like that was something that you learned throughout? I mean, I don't know. Actually, let's go into a bit of your background. What is your like upbringing with design?
Um, So when I was in middle school, I had a YouTube page. So that was how I learned how to use Photoshop because I would make like YouTube thumbnails.
I was raised on
So
YouTube thumbnails
that, yeah,
in the
see,
trenches.
that really propelled me forward in being able to have Photoshop skills. But then, like I said, I had that class in college, which ended up being one of my like very favorite classes that I ever took when I was in college. Um, because with my major, we had a lot of like kind of project oriented or like pretty like real world kind of classes that we could take. So like I said, it was a semester long project and like the culmination of it was um, like a 24-hour long proof day that we had where we got to the classroom at 7 a.m. and we didn't leave the classroom till 7 a.m. the next day. Um,
Whoa.
it
Bit
was kind of
intense.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, And so just being in that class, and I think it like worked to my advantage that I was working alongside other people that had more graphic design experience, being on like the design team, because none of us were obviously like we were all still in college, so none of us were like working real world, graphic designers by any means, but just like taking the little bit of knowledge that I had and the little bit of knowledge that someone else had, and then like, as a team, I think we got to like really come together and learn a lot from each other, which, like I said, I feel like if you want to learn, like there is so much knowledge out there and so many people that know so many things. Um, so that class was really like the only graphic design kind of like experience that I had. Um,
Hmm.
I took one graphic design class after I took the magazine class, and it was only fonts. Like we didn't make like a poster. We didn't do a picture in Illustrator. We only like worked with fonts, which at the time I was like, this is so lame. Why are we like, where's the design? But now I'm obviously so like appreciative of like being able to kind of know the background with font design and what it takes to make a font that works. And um, but then since then, that's really the only graphic design experience that I've had, um, which I also like that I do things like this to like keep up with it. Because I feel like I would be sad if
Absolutely.
I look back and I'm like, oh, I used to be able to do like so much stuff on InDesign or so much stuff on Photoshop, and now I
It gets
don't
rusty
even know
for
how to do
sure.
it. Yeah. So I'm glad that I was maybe smart enough to keep doing stuff like this.
Yeah,
But
keep it fresh.
yeah, that's pretty much the extent of my graphic design background, which is just that one class.
A very intense
And
class that sparked a
yeah,
very
and
intense love.
yes, exactly. So I don't know if I would know how to even where to even begin with making a magazine if I hadn't done that class. So shout out to college.
Yeah. Do you have a shout out to a professor of certain type, or do you feel like it was mostly like having the place that made the difference, like having all of those people all together?
No, the professor, she was really awesome. I still get emails because they still do the class and we're all on like an alumni like invite list. So when they have their launch party and like when the magazine comes out, one gets sent to my mom's house because that's where the first one was sent. So
Hmm.
it's actually kind of cool because now there's just like this whole community of people that, all did this class at some point, whether before or after me, but we're all like kind of in this little networked sort of community, um, just because of that. And then even like my college roommates that were there when I was like, up till 3 in the morning trying to design stuff, like they still talk about like, oh, Curb magazine, we remember. Like,
I
so
love that.
it's like a whole network of people that are connected or connected adjacent to Curb magazine.
So cool. And that was the magazine production for the school.
Yeah,
Very
it was really
cool.
cool. I went to school in Wisconsin and it was like a magazine about Wisconsin. So we would like come up with a theme as a class, and then everyone would write a story. And then we had like a photographer that took the photos. We had a web design team that made the digital version. It was a whole thing.
Really good collaboration. That's so cool.
Yeah,
By the way,
but a lot of
Kendall
fun.
says I went to TypeCon one year and it was in Denver, and oh my gosh, all the type nerds.
Oh my gosh,
Also,
that
Cody
sounds
says
fun.
a hobby of a husband and I is critiquing graphic design and font choices of businesses in the wild. So just being like, that one questionable, that one immaculate.
I think I do that subconsciously.
Hmm. So
I'm like,
goofy.
Seraph, are you sure?
Also, Ryan says 24 hours. Is that legal for the class?
I don't know.
Hey man, might not be legal, but it sparked something.
Yeah, there
Uh,
was only one kid that got to get out of it because he had a job. they all
Yes.
have jobs. But no, it was a lot of fun. All right, let's think what else I did. Hmm.
Oh, Sean says before we get too far, is that 15 going to be floating in nowhere land?
I kind of wanted to float in nowhere land. Do you not like it, Sean?
No, I think, hey, this is your magazine. Everybody's just here to watch.
I know. I was just trying to see if I could do anything more fun. I think maybe if I don't know if I did anything fun on the 15th, but if I had a photo, the photo could just be
Maybe
the box.
what if the 15th was just not worth remembering? So you're like, that one can go.
That's entirely possible. But it seems like it was a Saturday, so I hope that I did something fun, but
Who knows?
you can't be
Sometimes it's
sure.
just rest day.
Um, let's see what else did I
Kendall says
do?
the 15th is mysterious and has disappeared. Jeff says, I love that Berklee has such strong InDesign roots. Yes, we love that. Also, feel free to show off any of the favorite features that you would have in InDesign because we love to hear any kinds of tips and tricks that we can gather.
Yes.
Osmosis.
So yeah, like I said before, I think I have another one on this in this version of the magazine. Oh yeah, on here. Like I said, I love a text wrap. I feel like it just adds something so fun. And then I think like I was saying earlier, I feel like maybe people think that InDesign is a little bit limiting because it's not so like visually doesn't like really propel the visual aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like even something like changing the color of the text can like add something so cool and interesting. So like this was one of the first designs that I made for this season or this year's magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that like I was like the only thing I want to do is I want to have like a colored text and then I want one of the pictures to have like a mask over it that matches the color of the text. Like I
Nice.
don't know where I came up with this or why but I was like I feel like something about a dark background with like colored font is just so interesting in itself because
Mm-hmm.
it's different than obviously the regular like white background black text. Um, and then I do love I think this is called a drop cap maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
think so.
but that's a favorite thing too because I feel like it just looks so fun. I think I have one maybe in last year's magazine that was fun. Yeah.
Your pictures are great too. I just love that you and your friends are just down to take so many goofy, fun pictures.
I know that's another thing that when I was in college I told my friends that I was going to make a documentary of our life. And so I just started recording everybody and making um using Premiere Pro would make like a little movie of our year. And then I've done that every year since then. So this is year 6 of me doing that. Oh yeah, here's this. Um, so I feel like they know at this point that to expect that I'll be documenting everything. But I feel like
Mm-hmm.
just a fun giant letter.
Yeah,
Like this is not that necessarily like exciting of a spread. It's just kind of like a little collage with like, some pictures on the front. But I feel like having color on this side helps to like balance out both
definitely
sides of the spread while
makes
also
it feel
being like,
unified.
yeah, while also being like pretty simple. Like it's nothing crazy revolutionary, like creative of like doing something wild. I feel like it's just makes a nice little balanced spread, which I like.
Definitely. Well, and also you have to think like in an entire magazine, which you said was like 40 pages, not all of them are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is the most groundbreaking whatever, because
Hmm.
that's just, it's a lot to read through too. Sometimes you need a little
Yeah,
grounding of like, okay.
right. I was gonna say, even if I could or wanted to make everything like super crazy, visually exciting, that's just like a lot to digest, I think, as like a reader or a viewer. So trying to like subdue some of them a little bit while also still making them interesting.
Hmm.
Even something like this, like having the two text box be kind of like staggered. Um, or I think I have
I saw
there's
another
so many
picture of a
pages at
dog.
this point.
I have a feeling that you want this kind of dog.
There are dogs everywhere. Oh, like this. Like I was like, I like
Oh,
this photo, but what can I do that's like makes it fun? And I was like, what if I just knock over one of
just a
the
little
text box and yeah, just like tip it over a little bit, and that's the whole vision. And so
love
I
it.
feel like this ended up being, one of the spreads that I liked the most in my magazine that I made last year, just because I'm like, oh, goofy
Yeah, just
little,
a little touch.
goofy little thing.
That is very cute. And it also feels like it kind of graphically mirrors in the picture. Like you have all those things on the ground and they're like tilted compared to
Hmm.
straight on. So it feels like it kind of, I don't know. It's like a little echo.
Yeah. And like I said, this is like some one of the like main maybe creative elements that I feel like I have to kind of navigate or figure out is writing about things that are interesting but not like redundant.
Hmm.
So like for example, in this one I just did like a regular like day and did like timestamps of things that happened throughout the day.
Hmm.
So I think like something that can be so daunting is like, especially if you're not a writer or like don't feel like that's like something that's a strong suit, is trying to come up with different ways to write things that are like exciting. Because that's one like piece of or like one response I get a lot when I post some of these spreads to TikTok is people are like, I don't do anything. Like I don't travel, like so I would have nothing to write about. Like, but I feel like everyone would have something to write about because you're doing something every day. So even if it's like, what TV shows did I watch this year? Or what products do I use when I go to bed? Like all of the
Yes.
things that you're not thinking about now that are like a part of your life. And in 5 years down the road, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I forgot that I watched that show or
Yeah. It's kind of like gratitude
used that.
journaling. Like if you start looking for it, you'll find it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, yeah, like I said, that's like a big piece of feedback that I get that people are just like, I could never do this because I don't do XYZ. And I know that like in my examples, it seems like, oh, I'm doing so much because I, maybe live in Colorado or XYZ. But I feel like everybody has different things that they could do to make their life seem exciting. And I think,
Hmm.
like someone said at the beginning, just romanticize your life. If you
Yes.
want your life to feel like a movie, just make it feel like a movie.
Just do the thing.
Exactly.
By the way, we have less than 20 minutes left. Time flies on here. Um, Also, we have a question from Carol who asks, how do you export with bleed/trim marks when it's set up as facing pages? So this is a technical question about InDesign. Do you have an answer?
Um, yes. So I think usually when I make the document at the start, I put all the bleeds and the margins already in there so that everything is like how it should be for print.
Hmm.
Typically, wherever you print as well, like if anything like this seems confusing, they're always like, obviously, it's their job to know how to print something with the correct bleeds and margins and everything. Um, but let's see, I only do this, once a year.
So dust
But
off all those memories of
yeah,
Googling things.
mm, yeah,
But it is
um,
definitely however many times you use it, that's, how much it'll live in your
yeah,
brain.
yeah. See, now I'm like forgetting how to do it. But oh wait, no, I do not.
Oh, we've actually got some help in the chat too. Barbara says, Carol, InDesign to PDF will take care of it for you, I think. Check out quote unquote book,
Yeah,
which I
I was
think
gonna
is one
say it
of the.
brings you to this export page, and then you have blah blah blah. But normally I just set it up in the beginning to ideally be the correct size, and then as long as you stretch your pictures out big enough and yada yada. Because that was one thing I did in my first magazine was I didn't do the bleeds correctly. So then I had like a little margin on some pages because I forgot that that was a thing.
It's always got to happen at
So
least
that's it.
once. You live, you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeff
And
says
that's why you
sometimes a
just Google
printer will.
everything.
Exactly. Sometimes a printer will ask for single page PDFs for this reason, not spreads. I had to convert an account to account for the bleed in the binding. So everybody's had some kind of experience of, printing from InDesign and figuring out exactly the right settings. I would always say if you have a client of some sort, ask them for like any kind of aspect ratios or technical necessities that they would need beforehand. Always a good thing to ask. And if you're doing it for yourself, just, copy all of Berklee settings, clearly.
Yeah, easy. You'll only mess up one time, and then
Yeah.
after that, you'll be good.
Well, do you ever print out proofs first, or do you just go full print?
I usually just go full print. Um, I mean, yeah, the printer that I work with, I can do like a proof, but normally by the time, like I said, that I'm like ready to send to print, I'm just so like, I'm like, okay, I just need to send it out and not think about anything. Because I'm sure if I sent a proof, then I would be like, well, I could just change this one thing. So once I have the mindset that I'm done, I usually just send it away and I'm like, all right, if there's something that's messed up, it just adds to the story, I guess, of it.
Yeah, it's in the printer god's hands.
Exactly. Um,
Thank you for showing so many of your spreads to us, by the way. It's been very entertaining to look at all of your amazing graphic design skills on display.
Thanks. Um, so yeah, I feel like this is happening live in action as I'm like staring at this is like I'm not liking the colors anymore. So it's kind of one of those
Finagle things.
things, like I said, that it's just like the more I work on it, the more it changes. Or even like I was just staring at this cover when we were starting. I was like, I don't like these colors either. Like I was like, maybe instead of white, I want this to be like pink. And then maybe that,
That is very cute.
maybe that just stands out a little bit more than the kind of white that gets lost in the green. Um, but yeah, I get a lot of questions about like the cover and deciding what to do with it. And it's just so much trial and error of like, what do I think looks fun or exciting or
Mm,
what is, engaging. Or maybe I want this back up here, but I want this to still be upside down.
I love that, just playing with it. Do you ever save out images to like compare to each other? To say like, okay, this is one iteration, here's another.
Sometimes, or sometimes I'll just like add another page, like to, so I can see them like, I guess those won't be side by side because that's the cover, but like I'll just add two of the same thing right next to each other so I can like look at them together.
Hmm.
And maybe that's like a better strategy, or maybe it's not. Maybe it makes me even more. These aren't the same color, which is bothering. Maybe it makes it more challenging to kind of like objectively pick what I think looks better. But like I said, it's a year-long process. So
Hmm.
kind of just figuring out, and even like something that I love in March, by the time it's November, December, maybe I'm like, oh, I'm kind of sick of that. Maybe that's not really my style anymore. Um, but
Would you ever consider it like a time capsule of your style from back then, or do you feel like it's always just what you feel up to the moment of the year?
kind of sometimes I will like intentionally leave spreads that I made earlier in the year and not like, even if I want to like kind of alter them, I won't, because I'm like, this is more like true to what I was feeling at the time, or like what I felt, especially if I make it closer to like maybe what the page is about. Like I don't really want to change. Like when I made that, I felt good about it then. And obviously my style is going to change. Even some of the pages from my first or my second magazine, maybe that's not how I would do it, today. And I'm sure the ones that I'm making right now, I would even maybe past me would say are not as good, or future me would say like not really my style. But I feel like that kind of adds an element to the whole like point of the magazine being, yeah, like time capsule, kind of like memorializing certain times of my life. Um, and even so far as to talk about like the design, like that is part of me at that time, was how I would have made, like edited different things or used different fonts or different colors. So sometimes I like to just leave it, even if like November, December me thinks this is so bad. Why would I have ever made it like this? Because March me liked it. I don't know.
Yeah. Stop judging March you, okay? Give her a break.
Yeah, March me has big ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Clever
Yeah,
Devlin is saying, I like the idea of doing this as you go. Capture the mood of the time and you can change it later or leave it. Just so
exactly.
true. Just,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
it's
like
up to you.
this spread is one of the very first spreads I think that I made in this magazine. And like the text used to be on the left page. And like now it's not really my favorite, but I just kind of want to leave it because, you know, whenever I came back from Europe, I made this and this
Mm-hmm.
was like how I was feeling about it. So even though now like I'm not crazy about this like weird yellow color and I don't know that I like the little doodles, but I'm like, well,
But
I
it's
liked it at
Europe.
some point, and I think that
Exactly.
yeah. So yeah, so much of it, like I said, is just trial and error. It's just like the workflow is sort of just like a stream of consciousness from different parts of the year. And yeah, it kind of just is like a testament to the time that I made it.
And how did you come up with Colorado? Or is that like a thing in Colorado?
Yeah, people do say that. I made a TikTok about this one and everyone thought like I was really clever. And I was like, I don't know how to tell you guys that I
Mm.
this was not me. But I was like, I'll take some of the credit, I guess, if you guys want to give it to me, but this was not my not my
I heard it
clever.
somewhere, but you'll never know where.
Yeah, see, exactly.
Love it. And that is a beautiful picture. Do you ever have like trouble picking which pictures go, or is it just kind of flow and it works?
Kind of like sometimes I have pictures that I might just like from the year, but they don't necessarily go with like some kind of particular like story concept or like something that I could really like write about or turn into a whole spread. Um, so like sometimes if I like really want to, I'll just, like I guess this has a story spread, but I'll just put like this. I was like, oh, that was just a picture when I was like going on a walk in the morning and I liked the picture. So like how could I make a story about it? And then other times if I feel like I really can't make something that like connects to it particularly well, I'll just like make some kind of collage. Like I think on my tour poster.
You've
So
got a
like
few
in
collages in there, but yeah,
I
ooh,
know.
that's
Like
cool.
I was like, oh, these were just like, oh my matcha. Now my matcha's in here twice. Oh no.
The matcha lives. No, it's a good thing. It was a big deal. Okay.
True.
Let the matcha go.
But like I have this picture of like a receipt from when I was in Spain. And I'm like, I'm not gonna like where can I put a receipt that's like gonna look cool, but like obviously there's no story about a receipt probably.
I mean,
So
but
I feel
there
like
are.
this is my true. This is my like go-to is to just kind of like smush everything together. Or like my cover from last year's magazine. I was just like, oh, a picture of my friends and I camping, a picture in Europe. What if I just smush it all together and make
Mm.
it try to make it look visually cool, even though it doesn't have like a text kind of like component to go along with it. Um,
I also feel like that particular one has this really cool dichotomy of it feels like day life and nightlife together, where it's like that beautiful, like picturesque scene up above, and then at night it feels like, you're hanging out with your friends in the back of a truck or
mhm.
something, like these are two sides of it. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
because especially like I said earlier, like I like the idea of like a photo book or whatever, but obviously I want to like enhance it a little bit. But sometimes I feel like there are times when I want to like go backwards a little bit and have it be like I wish that it was like a photo book because then I could just dump a bunch of photos in here and it would just have like every photo that I like. So I think
Hmm.
trying to like I think I have it on the back cover too. Trying to like find a home for pictures that I do like and think are cool. Like here's my cart at Home Depot when I bought plants. Like obviously that's not very exciting on its own or something that can like stand alone. But I try to do what I can to be able to like include all of the photos and like random daily memories that I can, even if they're not like big, big events of something I could write a whole page or make a whole spread about.
I think
I
many
feel like that's
people
just,
empathize with the feeling of getting plants being a big deal. So I don't
it
think it's
is.
necessarily a bad one.
And keeping them alive is an even bigger deal.
Yes. How many are?
And I think there's only two in the cart, so
Oh, only two.
I've gained one more, I guess.
Through osmosis. Here's a new one.
Yeah,
Oh, goofy. Well, we've only got about 4 minutes left. Oh my gosh. It's gone in a flash. Thank you so much for showing us so much of your process. This has been
of
really
course.
enlightening, and I think honestly, everybody wants to make a magazine of their life now.
And they should.
Yeah, it's such a good idea. I can't believe more people don't do it already. It's very, very cool.
And it's a perfect time to start right now because the new year is coming up. So
True,
now it's
yes.
front of mind, it's fresh.
Do you
So
have
now
any
there are no
tips
excuses.
if somebody was to start? Like, would you recommend setting up the pages just to make it easy to be like, all right, here's where you're going to start plopping things in if you have
That's what I do. Usually yeah, I'll make like a document with maybe like 4 or 6 pages or something, or like a couple spreads. And then, as things happen, there's not like I don't really put pressure on myself to like I have to make one every month or I have to like, but just like, oh, this happened. Look at all these pictures I have. Like maybe I'll start kind of like fuddling around with it and then like what can I kind of put together. And then like I said, if you're like kind of doing it as you go along and doing it along the way, you have so much time to be able to make those edits along the way. And you don't have to like it right away, but I think just getting something on paper is like a great start because it can seem so daunting when it's like, oh no, I have to make 40 pages or I have to make however many pages I'm setting up for myself. But I think just getting started is half the battle. Um, so I think the earlier that you kind of do that and just play around with it, because like I said, it's kind of just fun. I don't do this obviously for work, so that maybe makes it more fun for me because I'm not doing it all the time, but it's just kind of like a fun little project to be working on. I'll be like watching TV and I'm like, oh, what if I just somewhere to get my creativity out, um,
absolutely.
and have like something fun to work on.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Berklee. This has been just such an experience. Seeing all of your graphic design is so inspiring, and I want people to be able to kind of just follow along with your journey. Also, I just personally have a question. Do you sell these
Mhm.
magazines at all, or are they just for like sending to friends and family? What do you do with them?
Yeah, usually I print like 10 and I give them out to like my friends and my mom and my brother. But yeah, I don't do anything else with them per se, but I feel like I just put them on a shelf. They look nice and decorative. And then when I'm bored, I can read about my past years.
Absolutely. Well, if you ever want to consider putting them up for sale online, I'm sure like I would love to have a copy of this. This would be so, so cool to have. I know it's a little like personal, so it feels like a chunk of yourself, but I think it's so cool. And all of your creative work is just so beautiful. Where
Thank
can
you.
people find you online if they want to check you out?
I'm on TikTok and Instagram. Both of them are Berklee Ryann, and
Excellent.
that's everywhere that I am.
Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope to see you again on Adobe Live real soon. Good luck with the magazine. This has been
Thank you.
amazing. All right, see you guys, everybody in the chat. Oh, up next, by the way, we have texture creation in After Effects, another unique stream. So definitely stay tuned. We'll see you in a few minutes. Bye.